to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. With that, let's go ahead and note that present today you have Mayor Jose Rios, Vice President Mike LaVar, and myself, Chris Lopez. We'll open up business from the public, which is also public comment, and invite folks to use the raise hand function via Zoom or come forward in room. See nobody in room. Do we have any hands up via Zoom? Hearing no hands up via Zoom, we'll bring it back and close public comment, proceed with our consent agenda, items A through E. Is there a member of this body who wishes to pull an item from consent? Seeing none, we'll go to the public, see if there's a member of the public who wishes to pull an item from consent. Seeing none in room. No hands up going up via Zoom. We'll bring it back. Is there a motion to approve our consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Mayor from Rios, motion from Rios, second from LaVar. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. We'll look at our special agenda now. Status update regarding the professional financial services agreement related to the authority's financial services.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and allow General Counsel to take the lead on presenting this item. Roy, are you on?
I am. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right. Mr. President, members of the board, thank you for letting me quickly address the board. This item will be short. At the last meeting, we had approved the retention of a finance director for the authority. And that a finance director would be Mike Howard. And the board also approved the execution of a professional services agreement. Unfortunately, at this time, we're still in discussions with Mr. Howard. It's unclear so far right now whether we are going to go forward or not. I'm hoping that that is going to be the case. But we may come back at the next board meeting seeking a direction, excuse me, from the board to possibly either do an RFP or seek a separate individual from Mike Howard to be the finance director for the board. So my apologies for the delay. It just some things have arisen and we're trying to kind of work through them.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, we'll go to the public. Any questions on this item? Seeing nobody in room, anybody via Zoom? All right, no hands up. Thank you, Roy. We appreciate the update. Going now to item 7, the executive director's report. Will begin with the freezing of the ACP.
Thank you, President. Just a quick update since the last meeting we had spoken on the Affordable Connectivity Program, which is a $20 or $30 subsidy benefit from the federal government that has now ended or will be ending now at the end of this month. With that said, that is a huge loss for the community as well when it comes to affordable programs being available to the community. And that's why it's important to also now switch over what will be the new reality for a lot of the households here in the region. With that said, a lot of different mechanisms we can utilize now and or alternatives to go from here. One of them is calling on private service providers to then step up and take that role themselves. There is an incentive for them to do so to keep these households connected, as well as the duty that they have as well. With that said, the California Emerging Technology Fund, in partnership with the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership through the consortium that we run, has now looked to promote and offer these services through and promote these services that these ISPs have been putting out there, whether it's AT&T's plan, whether it's Comcast's Internet Essentials plan, any plan that is below $30, we are promoting it. And we also now have set up a helpline for the community to utilize. That helpline has the flyer that will be sent out as well. And it will have a direct line for the community in county of Monterey specifically to utilize and to showcase those offers at. So that's kind of like part of the work that we're doing, and we'll be working with the board as well to promote that to the communities. And I think it's an essential role to the reality that we live in today, which is post-ACP. And with that said, I think the other item that is notable to note is there's a focus on the BEAD program that is coming up, and ACP's loss is huge for BEAD because it makes a lot of areas in the community a lot less project project interest, their project interest in them drops immediately. And I think having an affordable program offered keeps those communities connected and also has those underserved communities viable for BEAD funding. And with the BEAD funding, we're sharing a lot of notice about it with the series of roundtables we held with Congressman Panetta's office. And that is part of the work that's just about really putting the notice of BEAD funding. It's really the last big funding pool that's really out there from the federal government when it comes to the historical level of funding that was passed down to the IIJA. We had 3 of these roundtables. They're all adjacent areas to South County, but I think with South County, the benefit that they have is you guys, is the South Salinas Valley Broadband Authority. It has representation on that end. Those areas that we went to in Big Sur, Boulder Creek, and the greater Aptos area, they suffer from not having represented organizations. So it's really about the work that we're learning from being a part of the JPA, having the representation here, having the access to be able to work on the community on the ground here, has been able to expand that effort and replicate it elsewhere. So I think it's about what we're doing here and also promoting it and also sharing those lessons elsewhere. So I think it's been an exciting opportunity to be a part of. And last but not least, I think we're gonna have to transition now to our president and CEO, Tara Garania, who will be sharing a set of slides about the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership's economic development work, which I think will be a highlight to showcase for the community. And we're gonna add Tara to the Zoom right now.
Oh, there it is. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon.
Tara,
Can you hear me? Thumbs up.
yeah,
Excellent, excellent. So thank you for having me. I will not take a long time. I just wanted to take a moment to join your meeting this afternoon to highlight 2 major things we're working on and then personally invite you to our economic outlook that it will take place a week from tomorrow, as a matter of fact. So I am away helping organize both board activities that are taking place next week, as well as our economic outlook. So thanks for having me. That said, if Amir, if you could pull up the slides, or I can drive from here, if I'm able to share, what would you prefer?
Go ahead and try and share it, Tara.
Excellent. Let me see if I can share. Can you see that?
Yes.
yes.
Oh, I loved our technology. There you go. So let's see if you can see this larger screen. There you go. So just briefly, Tara Garania, President and CEO of the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership. Again, thanks for having me here on this agenda. Just broadly, our frame as a Monterey Bay Economic Partnership, as many of you know, we do serve the Tri-County of the Monterey, Santa Cruz, and San Benito counties. That said, our strategic initiatives are just intersecting initiatives as we think of economic development and economic growth for a thriving region. We see it as primarily economic development through the lens of housing, our northern star of creating more housing across the spectrum, all types of housing. And that's permanent supportive, that's affordable housing, that's workforce housing, that's also market rate housing, because housing inventory is simply so low, as many of you know, around the room and in the Zoom. The second prong is definitely broadband. Without broadband, and I'm speaking to the choir here, it really curtails economic growth, academic and educational attainment, and access to health and so many other things. So broadband is one of our bigger, stronger initiatives. So that's our second prong. And the third major prong is the economic development growth. And the way we define that is not only business recruitment, external to the region, but also business retention of those companies that already are here, and how can we help, whether it's through incentives, it's through matchmaking with the state, cities and counties, site selection where, and if possible, but also as it intersects to other needs that employees and employers have in order to retain and recruit labor to this region. Part of that are two initiatives that we're also running that are very much under the frame of what we call inclusive economic development, and making sure our communities are also engaged. And that's typically not the frame by which we have traditionally approached economic development. And this is not just because of economic MBEP, but in generally state and feds have not looked at that. And I think given the recent sort of not just the pandemic, but I think global and national learning about including our workforce community, including our historically disinvested communities, including as many voices to the table, makes for a more comprehensive approach to economic development. And certainly intersecting in that space is health and education and policy and advocacy. And to the extent that MBEP can be a partner and a collaborator, that is our aim as a regional convener in the Tri-County space. That said, the biggest, the project we've been working on in terms of inclusive economic development specific to our region is called Regions Rise Together. You may recall several years ago, there was some I would say SURF and community economic resilience and the governor's initiative. There was a lot of conversation about regions and regionalism and philanthropy and government looking at economic development through those lens. And I believe it was an assembly member out of Kern County who kind of introduced this entire concept of how can we grow regional economic ecosystems. We were able to leverage some resourcing out of the James Irvine Foundation back in 2020, specifically, I think it was February 2020. And in essence, MBEP brought together public-private partners, community-based organizations to talk about what would it look like if we were to develop our own inclusive economic development plan. And Irvine was able to identify a couple of communities in the state. One of the communities selected was, in fact, Salinas. We modeled our project after Fresno Drive. And the outcome was a blueprint that was published in November of 2021. And of course, as you can imagine, all of this organizing and connecting with community and government and industry all happened during the pandemic. And so it was, and then it was highlighted at the California Economic Summit in November of 2021. Some of you may recall, you were there at the Economic Summit. Since then, with additional funding from Irvine, the initial scope was very much Salinas focused. Now it includes a broader scope to include other zip codes and areas in the Tri-County region to truly be an inclusive economic development plan. That said, it is in its second iteration, the Blueprint 2.0, as we affectionately like to call it. And I just want to flag for you to sort of stay tuned as we're looking to finalize and have that release in early summer of 2024. Now, what is the purpose? The purpose is once this blueprint is developed along the lines of neighborhood and infrastructure, housing plays a big part in that blueprint, broadband and connectivity, community engagement and power building. How do we intentionally include communities that are not usually at the table? How do we include farm worker communities? How do we include our labor councils? So it's been very intentional to make sure certain voices are centered. And once it's in a draft format, it will then go out to people like yourself, as well as other communities and other policymakers and decision makers, in addition to it is currently being translated in Spanish, so we can get some feedback from our community as well, and our community leaders and partners. And again, the end goal is we have an inclusive economic development plan that speaks to our region and our needs, then we are better equipped to make budgetary decisions at the city and county levels and state advocacy, as well as philanthropic asks and industry level asks. And it also informs industries of where they may want to give or develop, because it is very much centered in community and uplifting community voices. So stay tuned for that. And that in essence is why Regions Rise Together came together. Ironically, this is the same blueprint that then gave foundational support for our second project, which is from the state itself. And that's the Uplift Central Coast Project. It's a project of across 6 counties. You know, Regions Rise Together is very much focused on our Tri-County Monterey Bay region. The Uplift Central Coast, on the other hand, is focused on the 6 counties stretching from Santa Cruz all the way down to Ventura. It is funded by the state, 3 entities, Labor, Office of Planning and Research, and Governor's Office of Business all came together, and this was legislated in November of 2021. $5 million grant across 6 counties to come up with an inclusive economic development plan. And it was our Regions Rise Together plan that served as a foundational piece to the proposal and was a model for the proposal. That said, it is now administered through MBEP as a Northern Regional Convener, REACH in San Luis Obispo to cover that county, and Ventura EDC covers Ventura and Santa Barbara counties. Together, we call ourselves Uplift, and the background is really to we first came together, the 3 organizations, for the Build Back Better grant. That was in the summer of 2021, I believe, with the purpose of how do we uplift our regional narrative as a Central Coast that is more than the American Riviera and this beautiful place we live, but it also has great need and a wonderful, tremendously beautiful population that lives on our coast and has diverse needs. And yes, we have the big industry partners in ag and hospitality and tourism and health, but what are the other opportunities that we may want to develop? So that was legislated and originally called SURF, Community Economic Resilience Fund, and it is now called California Jobs First. And that is the new rename of the project under the state. And again, the plan is to develop broad coalition. How do you involve community? How do you also resource community for their subject matter expertise or their voices and their stories? How do we fund community-based organizations to collect qualitative and quantitative data? And simultaneously, it's evaluating the comprehensive economic development plans across all 6 counties. And what's the labor numbers telling us? What are the trending opportunities in our current environment? I wanted to quickly share that we do have a very much a community governance model. You will recognize many of our faces, many of the names, I should say, that represent the Northern County, both on the Vision Committee and in the Steering Committee. MBEP, EDC, and REACH serve on the Executive Committee, but largely most of the decision-making is driven by the Vision and the Steering Committees. In this tranche of programming or phase of the project, it is like I said, the qualitative and the quantitative, sort of the analysis, a lot of listening sessions. There will be another resourcing that post plan, the state will invest in shovel-ready programs that are identified by the Steering Committee and others that folks can apply for in our regions and in our community. That plan is due to the state by late August, just to flag for you. And right now, the first part of the plan, or the first part of the reporting to the state, is live and on the MBEP webpage. Happy to disseminate and share back out with everybody here. So the final report, the orange number 4 bucket in this arrow, is due in August, and after that, it'll be sort of a round of implementation funds. Last but not least, because I wanted to keep it really sort of high level and brief, I'm more than happy to come back at any given moment to individual cities or individual economic development committees you may have in your region or in South County, or even this body specifically, to dive deeper in any one of our programs in the economic development space. But I did want to sort of do a high level touch here in this space that I was invited to present at, and conclude with saying that in addition to all that we do that I'm happy to answer, we would also love for your participation and presence next Friday as we host our Regional Economic Outlook featuring John Haveman as the economist who will kick it off. We will also have all 3 CAOs from all 3 of our counties present on a panel, which is very historic. I'm told they've not all been on the same stage together before. At least that's what they are telling me. And we'll also highlight the hospitality industry as well, in addition to our partnership with the Housing Trust of Silicon Valley and talk about how we've been able to leverage funds to create affordable housing in the last several years. So it'll be a short but fun day where we can network, connect, and learn and walk away from. So that's next Friday. And with that, I thank you and I will pause for any questions.
Thank you, Tara. Any questions? I don't see any here. Let's go to the public, see if there's any questions from the public. I don't see anyone in the room. No hands up via Zoom. Well, thank you, Tara. Thanks for tuning us.
Absolutely.
That MBEP, we appreciate that.
You're welcome.
All right, then lastly, we're at Board of Directors reports. So I'll kick us off today and just share that I got a briefing yesterday on Golden State Connect and a lot of what's going on there. All of our applications did get in. What's really exciting is obviously to make our projects work, we need that loan loss reserve piece. And we understand that we are all but one of the applications that went on the loan loss reserve from Golden State Connect. So we submitted, I believe, 37 projects and we were told there were high 30s in terms of total applications in. And that the dollars amount aligned with nearly every single application we put in. So we're well positioned to pull those down. And again, we are a highlight, I think, of the applications that went in. So now we're in that waiting, right? We're answering questions as they come in from the CPUC on our projects, but everything moves forward. They have questions of the funding partners in the background. All that's been taken care of within 24 hours of them asking, they had answers. So we're trying to stay on top of anything that they submit to make sure that we're not falling behind and meeting all the expectations of our partners. The other piece happening that I think everyone needs to be aware of, and I think most folks are, is just the budget piece. We know that loan loss reserve did get cut slightly in the initial proposal from the big three, being the governor, the speaker, and the pro tem. And so that hurts a little bit. It's a delay. It's not a cut, but those delays, I think for us, need to continue to be in focus on all of our legislative levels, just to continue to push not to cut the funding to these programs, because many of those dollars we know are federal that are going through the state, and even some of those state matching dollars. We need to follow through on this commitment to our community, even in tough budget years. I know that there's going to be a lot of attempt, given the budget gap that exists at the state level, to defer dollars to future years. But for those of us who've done the work and stepped up to create solutions, we want to make sure that the state honors that by following through on their commitments to fund the projects that at the end actually connect communities. So no matter what level you're on, when you run into our legislators and those outside of our traditional footprint, encouraging them to follow through on that commitment, I think would be a great talking point to add to your list. I think that's the end of my report. Any, Mayor LeBar?
Just a couple comments, and it's more on the agenda structure and our meeting. So, and to a mayor. And I know this is hard, but I think what would be important is when you're acting as the executive director to wear that hat. It's easy to go back and forth between MBEP and SSVBA. So being very clear on language when you're speaking for as executive director. When a member of the public, when you were talking about some of the items on your report where you would say we did this and we did that, you actually were speaking about MBEP did this. So I've been taking that point of view, and then when you build your agenda items, so appreciated hearing from Tara, but that should have been more of a special presentation. Because it's not really an SSVBA executive part of that report. You know what I'm saying?
But thank you. This is really helpful.
And it's all about what hat you're wearing at the moment you're sitting down at the meeting.
Yeah.
We all get that.
Yep.
So it's just
Thank you.
some, I guess, bookkeeping
Oh, yeah.
comments.
We're all in this together. So thank you for that note. I'm happy to learn it. And I'm like,
Yeah,
once I know nothing else to say, like, you got it.
no problem. Thank you. That was it.
Anything else? All right, any public comment on the board of directors report? I don't see any in the room. No hands up via Zoom. All right, seeing none, we're at future agenda items. Anything somebody wants to see on a future agenda? Good. Just money.
We're just waiting for the
right.
next steps.
We look forward.
Comes the money.
That's it. All right, then we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Roy.
Nice and quick. Yeah.